The time for action has arrived.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, God, why do I keep talking about this woman? Why do I feel the need to talk about this woman? Why? Mainly because she's incredibly dangerous. Not only is she dangerous as an American, not only is she dangerous as an American congresswoman, but because she's dangerous as a Christian, as a self-professed Christian. Now on one of her social media tirades, she goes out and talks about Christian nationalism. I'm going to give you what it is in a few moments, but take a look at this clip from one of her video tirades, and then I'm going to break this woman, plain and simple, on her idea of Christian nationalism. Take a look.
If Christian nationalism is something to be scared of, they're lying to you. And they're lying to you on purpose, because that is exactly the temperature change that is happening in America today, and they can't control it. They can't control it, and that's what terrifies them the most. You see, if we're going to label it Christian nationalism, this movement will actually be the movement that stops the school shootings. This will be the movement that stops the crime in our streets. This will be the movement that stops the sexual immorality and teaches children and brings them up in traditional families and loving homes. This will be the movement that protects kids' innocence and nurtures them into responsible adults that grow up to be successful moms and dads wanting to pursue a family of their own. This will be the movement that finally does something about our debt, because it's something that all of us should be ashamed of. It should have never happened. This will be the movement that cares about broken and lost communities, communities that are always forgotten about. Christians should never forget about those people, and we don't. So while the media is going to lie about you and label Christian nationalism, and they're probably going to call it domestic terrorism, I'm going to tell you right now, they're the liars. And if anybody's a domestic terrorist, it's the radical left. They're the domestic terrorist. We could even say the Democrats are the domestic terrorists, because they funded them and they burned down our city streets and rioted in 2020. So if we're going to put labels on people, we should put labels where they appropriately belong, not on Christians and not on people who love their country and want to take care of it.
So much I can say about this woman. But first, let's define what Christian nationalism is. Now, Christian nationalism, according to the BJC, the Bible Judicial Committee, says that Christian nationalism is a cultural framework that idealizes and advocates a fusion of Christianity with American civic life. Christian nationalism contends that America has been and always should be decisively Christian from the top to bottom, in its self-identity, interpretation of its own history, sacred symbols, cherished values, and public policies, and aims to keep it that way. However, the Christian in Christian nationalism is more about identity than it is religion. It carries with an assumption about nativism, white supremacy, authoritarianism, patriarchy, and militarism. So basically, your Christian nationalism is pretty much white supremacy. You should be adding the names. It could be changed into so many names. It could be called Christian fascism, which is what this is all about. It could be called white Christian fascism or white Christian nationalism. The fact of the matter is this, Greene. You're not a prophet, you're not a pastor, you're not a minister. You're nothing more than a hateful, deceitful human being. And by this little speech of yours and this tirade, let's go through that, shall we? You call this the temperature change that this country needs. Really? We've heard that before. We heard that when Donald Trump was in office from people like you saying that this country is going to change, and he had just made things worse. You say that this is going to address school shootings. Now, speaking as a Christian myself, as a saved Christian, and I'm proud to say I am, I believe God is going to stop these shootings, but not the way you think he's going to stop them. God works through other people. You, Marjorie Taylor Greene, are the lawmaker, a congresswoman. So why can't you do something about it? Because you don't want to do something about it. A, because you're nothing more than a gun nut who has the Second Amendment and the rest of the in her back pocket, and the rest of the Constitution is pretty much optional for you. B, you're probably getting money from the gun lobbies, especially the NRA, because you don't want to do anything about it. You can't just leave everything in God's hands. I know this for a fact. God works through other people, through people. Why can't you just let them work through you, Greene? Because obviously you don't want them to. Obviously you don't want to work for other people. You don't want to work for others out there. Next thing you know, you say this will handle crime in the streets. How exactly? I believe God will heal our streets, heal our country. However, when it comes to people like you, you are one of the biggest purveyors of those crimes. People like you. You say that crime is all this person's fault or that person's fault. You say that crime is the problem of the Mexicans or the immigrants. Stop blaming others and start taking steps to fixing the problem. You also say that this will cure this country of sexual immorality. Obviously, she's talking about the LGBTQ community, because she has a vehement evangelical hatred for gays, lesbians, transgender, transsexuals, and others. She has that vehement hatred for it. But you don't say anything, not a damn thing, about what's going on in your house. I'm not talking about your house as in technically your home, Greene. I'm talking about you as in the Republican Party, your house. Matt Gaetz is still under investigation for sex trafficking. You forget about that? Oh, obviously you forgot about that, obviously. Not to mention the fact that Madison Cawthorn has been talking about sex parties and cocaine. You forgot about that? Real moral of you, Greene. Real moral. Oh, and and then the next thing you know, you talk about kids' innocence. So this is the one I really want to focus on really hard. Now, everyone in this country knows that the carnage that we've seen over the last 2 weeks or so. The shooting in Buffalo, New York, that cost 10 lives. The recent shooting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that cost 4 lives. And especially, and this is where I'm going to hit you, Greene, especially Irvindale, Texas. 20 people dead, 18 of them children. And what have you done? What have you done? Nothing. You're not going to do anything about it because you say this Christian movement is going to stop it all. No, it's not. You know what's going to stop it? The law is supposed to stop it. Laws that people like you want to break. Laws that people like you and your gun nut asshole buddies out there will have nothing more than to destroy. I'm going to talk about that in the next video. But here's the thing. You want to say God will take care of this. I have faith that God will. But God can't work alone. We have to do the work as well. You, on the other hand, Greene, and the rest of you Republican evangelical nutbutters out there, you don't want to do the work. You don't want to do the job. You don't want to get your hands dirty. You don't want to anger the people that are paying your re-election campaign. So you just walk away. And more people are going to die because of it. And now he wants to talk about, and then she says that it will erase the national debt, that this Christian movement will erase the national debt. Wasn't your God King Donald Trump supposed to erase the national debt? That's what he said when he said back in 2019 during his campaign, I'm going to erase the national debt in 8 years. Instead, he added trillions of dollars to the debt. Trillions of dollars to the debt. And you know, we all know why. Because of tax breaks for the wealthy in this country. He didn't do that. Seriously, Greene, I'm just going to say it right now. Greene, you're a racist. You're a fanatic. You're crazy. And you want to talk about terrorism. You're speaking like a terrorist. The same terrorist you, Donald Trump, and so many Republicans in this country have decried and insulted. One Muslim is a terrorist, all Muslims are terrorists. You're sounding like a terrorist. In fact, I'm going to hit you where it hurts the most. You are sounding just like Al-Qaeda, ISIS-K, the Taliban, ISIS-Z, whatever the crap they call themselves this week. You're sounding exactly like them. You perverted Christianity just as they perverted. They in the Muslim terrorists I mentioned, the Muslim groups I've mentioned, perverted Islam. And frankly, you're only steps away from becoming just like them. And I know this is going to get me into some kind of trouble or whatever. I don't care. But Greene, you're steps away from becoming the next mass shooter. You and whoever follows you are. On that note, I'm going to close this video with a scripture that fits you perfectly. Now, this scripture is from the Holy Bible, Jeremiah 14:14. Then the Lord said to me, the prophets are prophesying lies in my name. I have not sent them or appointed them or spoke to them. They are prophesying to you false visions, deviations, idolatries, and delusions of their own minds. That actually that describes you perfectly. That describes you absolutely perfectly, Greene. You want to say you think you're a God spokesman. You're not. You think that only God will help this situation. He won't. God works through us. A lesson I learned by going to church instead of trying to create my own church, which is what you're trying to do, Greene. God forgive you. And God forgive anyone who votes for this clown again. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.